Hello and welcome to the Superpowered Dare Die team. I'm Peter.
And I'm Rick, and today we're going to be talking about the 1989 film Back to the Future 2.
If you'd like to follow us on social media, we are on Facebook and on Twitter. And if you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe.
Can we look any more amateur?
So do you remember the first time that you saw Back to the Future 2, Rick?
Sadly, I do. I was a young, virile 18-year-old heading down to Hindley Street in the city of Adelaide, where all the cinemas were back then. Social media didn't exist like it does now. So I had no idea this movie was coming out. I loved the first movie, so went into this one with high hopes, and I'm going to say I came out crushed.
Okay, so I remember going to Glenelg to see this, also in Adelaide, with my brother. We went, and I reckon it was what we call a tight ass Tuesday, and I'm pretty sure we saw another movie that day. I mean, trying to think about it, it was either Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or The Hunt for Red October. I can't remember. But I also loved the first Back to the Future. I was 10 when I saw it at the cinema, and it blew me away and probably got me really into movies. It's also made me a lifelong Christopher Lloyd fan. And I saw Back to the Future 2, and I came up a bit like I liked it. I was a little bit unsure. I think it's because it was sort of like the middle part to a trilogy that confused me a bit. Like it was like something was missing. But I remember liking it while I was watching it, but at the end I felt a bit, something not quite right there.
I think I understand what I felt now was something that George Lucas taught me later on, was that it's okay to hate a film in a franchise that you love, because I've got to say, and we've both watched this again recently, I've got to say I can't stand this film.
And I like the film. I don't love the film, and I think I liked it less on this rewatch. And I found more things probably to pick on than I had before,
Yeah.
but I still do like the movie.
I,
So the
I,
movie,
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think there's moments of technical brilliance in it, but as a story, as a something to watch, no.
okay, so the movie starts off where the first movie ended. We have Marty and Jennifer meeting by his new car, and Jennifer seems a bit different, Rick. What's going on there?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the first things that threw me out of the movie straight away. So, Elizabeth Shue is now playing Jennifer. So,
Claudia Wells was the actress that played her in Back to the Future 1.
Yep, okay. You're way ahead of me on that one, but straight away I've seen. Oh, hang on, they're reshooting this scene. They're not even just using the edit from the end of the first movie. So it's been reshot, and there's a few scenes. Yeah, and there's a few scenes that were reshot in this one to replicate what happened in the first movie. But and I think they did it competently, but something fell off the minute Elizabeth Shue stepped in as Jennifer. Something fell off for me in that movie.
When I watched it this time, I just couldn't stop staring at the wig. It's just
It's
a really
terrible.
bad wig. She comes in and she says, "Oh, Marty, you're acting like you haven't seen me all week or something." And I just thought, you're acting like you haven't seen me in this wig before, because it looked wrong.
Yeah,
So
it was badly miscast, I think.
So she replaced Claudia Wells, who couldn't do the movie because she was looking after a sick mum. She went on to start a fashion store, like a clothing company, and now she does lots of appearances at Comic-Cons and things to do with Back to the Future. I think she probably really still has a lot of love for that first one. So
As she should.
yeah, she should. So we have the reunion between Marty and Jennifer, and then Doc arrives in his DeLorean all frantic, saying that they've got to go. They've got to go back to the future because something's got to be done about their kids.
Again, so a great way to end the first film. Kind of a cliffhanger. We're about to go off into the future. We're out, and for me, I could have been happy with the fact that that's it. That was all they were going to do with Back to the Future. But now they had to build on the story. I'll get to this a bit later on, but if this film had worked on the something that had to be done about the kids, I could say it could have been made into a better film. But they all three of them, Doc, Jennifer, Marty, jump in the car and take off. There's a scene shoehorned in with that wasn't in the original one, with Biff coming out to, oh, Marty, I've got something for your car, and seeing the DeLorean take off. So that kind of sets up the premise of...
Sort of throws it a bit.
Yeah, throws it about.
But it's a bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah, and then we go into opening titles, which I don't think either of the other two films did. Not in this way anyway. And so we get like a 3-minute long sequence of the score,
Clouds.
Which I love. Yeah, but flying through clouds. And it's kind of pointless. It's like we needed to make the runtime 125 minutes or something like that. And
so Marty, Doc, and Jennifer arrive in the year 2015, and then they quickly dispose of Jennifer. Doc gives her an electronic roofie, basically.
So this is already, like, I'm picking problems with the film. Even my 18-year-old self is going, well, hang on. It was really important they all went back to or into the future, and then all of a sudden Jennifer's disposable. I don't really need her.
And Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale have said that they hadn't planned a sequel, and it was just going to be a fun ending having that at the end of Back to the Future 1, and that if they were planning on making a sequel, they would never have put Jennifer in the car because they didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, and that goes back to my point that number one's just a perfect standalone film. Then again, another problem with the sequel is the Crispin Glover and the well-known stories about why he didn't return. I think he was a very big centerpiece of the first film. He was a very big emotional part of it. And for him not to be there, I believe they had to kind of rework the script reasonably quickly. And I just don't think it's worked.
And his was a really great performance in the first one too.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the memorable ones there. So it is definitely lacking that he's not in it much.
Yep.
So they arrive in 2015 and Doc knocks out Jennifer, and they shove him her in a garbage pile. And I noticed, and I know other people probably have noticed this before me, but I noticed in the garbage they had lots of laser discs and a couple of CDs, because I guess laser discs were a thing in 1989 or 98 when they made this. So now it would probably be DVDs or Blu-rays if they were going to do that now. So then Doc is explaining the next part of the plot to Marty, that he needs to go and see Griff, who is Biff's biomechanical grandson and psychopath. And luckily enough, Marty looks exactly like his future son, so Marty can fill in for him. Now, we get this whole scene... Oh, sorry, keep going.
So I don't know about you, but I've had kids, and my son is not an identical replica of myself.
No. The gene pool in Hill Valley is very strong, Rick. I think you'll discover that in the other movies as well.
They might have some midichlorians thrown in there too.
They might do. Maybe they're clones rather than offspring.
But you said something earlier. You said something earlier about exposition from Doc about why Marty has to be there and what he has to do. And I think this movie is very exposition heavy. It's like nearly every character has a point in the movie where they kind of explain what's going on, and it slows the film down.
It's pretty heavy-handed at times too.
Yeah.
But I mean, Doc's role in the whole movie is basically just exposition.
Yeah, it is. It's sad from when he became he was such an emotional part of the first one to just basically explaining to everyone what's going on. I think he does it
very well. Christopher Lloyd is very good at doing exposition, but maybe his character could have been given more to do.
Yeah.
So they go into the town square of Hill Valley in 2015, and we get the pretty famous now Jaws 19 scene.
Yep.
Shark still looks fake.
Yeah, we could do. And they got so many things right about where we would be in 2015. Right.
They did.
Yep. The flying cars, the outfits. 10 years ago, nearly 10 years, I used to wear my jeans inside out all the time because that was the thing. And I'm a massive fan of the double tie.
Yeah. I think we all are.
Yeah.
So they go. Marty goes into a place called Cafe 80s, which was this very clever, that knowing about nostalgia, or was it just because they had lots of stuff from the 80s available still?
Well, I think they had to try and because make that familiar cafe because that's the one he went to in 1955, but now he had to go in there because it was a reference to where he'd come from, I guess.
Now there's lots of screens behind the counter. Have you noticed the screens? On those screens there's Taxi, which Christopher Lloyd was in, and there's also Family Ties, which Michael J. Fox was in.
No, didn't notice any of that, but they did use the video game, the Western one, to kind of set up some, again, setting up stuff. So this is a movie more about setting up stuff for Back to the Future 3.
It's like the middle movie. And the little boy that was on the video game is Elijah Wood, who went on to be a very famous Hobbit.
I can't remember him. Never heard of him. And which is why we're doing these movie reviews. So up to date with all that stuff. But yeah, this film does a lot of nods to the original. Like this whole kind of opening scene with the town square going into the same cafe, and then we'll talk about it in a sec. The skateboard chase is pretty much replicating that whole opening of Back to the Future with less fun, I think, about it in this one.
Diminishing returns, do you think?
Yeah, a bit of that. And it's like, it's okay. It's a bit of a nod, but to do that whole lot as the same, pretty much the same thing, is a bit lazy, I think.
So Griff comes in and throws. What's Marty's son's name? Is it Marty Jr.?
Yeah, it's Marty McFly Jr. Yeah.
Throws him over the counter, luckily, because Marty was hiding behind the counter when he saw his son walk in. And Marty jumps up. They have a fight with Griff, and they end up in the town square with a hoverboard chase.
We do, which is, again, that mirroring, but just go back to something happened in the cafe which I really didn't like, and it's happened a couple of times in this movie, but it was the thing about Marty getting called chicken. So Biff, Marty's come out all pretending to be his son, going, "You can't tell me what to do, Biff. I'm saying no to this deal," and I'm walking out, and just as he's about to get out the door, Griff calls him chicken. And there's all of a sudden this music.
And has a chicken noise on his baseball bat.
Yeah, yes.
I think it's from his baseball bat.
And so, mate, nobody calls me chicken. And this is something was not set up in the first movie at all. It's just been whacked into this one and used a lot. And I hate it. I really hate it.
And it's another thing that is pretty heavy-handed. And
yeah,
it's not something I didn't like that. I remember not liking it when I saw it when I was 14.
Yeah.
With Biff's goons, in the back of that picture you can see now, the guy with a bowler hat is Jason Scott Lee, who went on to play Bruce Lee in the Bruce Lee movie Dragon. He was in The Jungle Book, and I think he was in the latest Mulan remake.
Okay.
So we have a hoverboard chase. Marty goes and takes a hoverboard off a little girl, takes the handle off, like he took the wooden bit off the skateboard in the original.
Yep.
And we have a chase. He ends up on the water.
And the chase almost exactly mirrors the first chase in the first movie, from where they're going around, Marty almost getting caught and then being able to grab onto the back of something else to change direction quickly.
That's his signature move.
Yeah. So they're clever nods, but as I'm sitting there watching it, I'm just going, I don't care.
So Marty ends up over the water, and these goons say hoverboards don't work on water, and Biff gets out his big, powerful machine, which looked... That little special effects where he drops it out the suitcase thing, that looked fake in 1989, but it doesn't hold up. But I did think the effects, like elsewhere, really did hold up watching this again.
Oh, there were some. I think technically it's a good movie. There are some really bad scenes that have really dated, but yeah, the whole... I think there was so much overacting in this movie, and this is one of those scenes about Biff Jr., Griff, whatever, like that stupid voice he had on... all that sort of stuff.
I probably disagree with you a bit on the performances, because I can just see Tom Wilson just having a ball. Like, I think he's having a great time playing these different characters, and I wasn't sort of taken out of the movie by that, because I sort of like it. To me, it's sort of a crazy sort of scenario anywhere with flying cars and hoverboards and all these bright colours and things. It's sort of, I can imagine people getting implants. If you've got a bit of a volatile personality, if you start getting alterations and things, you might be a bit of a psycho. So I think that maybe Robert Zemeckis was sort of pushing for these over the top sort of performances.
Maybe,
but I didn't. It didn't take me out, but it obviously took you out.
Yep. So anyway, the tension-inducing Marty trying to, oh my God, they're coming after me. What can I do? My hoverboard's not moving. And then the ingenious idea of the last minute, I'll just jump into the water, which causes them to go flying through glass without a cut. And that stuff I can live with, because that happens in movies all the time. Yeah, no one. People get thrown through glass.
Watching it this time, it seemed to take like a long time for them to be reaching him. You know the scene in Austin Powers where the guy's about to get run over by the steamroller, and he's like, no. That sort of, it just reminded me of that, because they seem to be taking their time to get to him.
I think
he jumps off.
I thought that's a bit of an editing decision too. Like,
yeah, Matt, it was probably to build tension.
But it's a movie about time, so I always sort of gone with this is about time, so they sort of manipulate it a little bit in that way, but there's no tension in that scene, so Marty's going to get away.
So they end up crashing into the courthouse, and Marty comes out the water, and he's got his self-drying jacket, which is cool. That's a cool little thing. The
I'm still waiting for mine.
Laces. Yeah, I think that they're nice little touches.
But 2015, I've ordered my self-drying jacket off Amazon a couple of weeks ago. And yes, the sleeves that just, handily come up. Anyway,
so once his jacket's dried, Marty's approached by a man in obvious old age makeup. And this guy is actually Charles Fleischer, who was the voice of Roger Rabbit. Not only the voice, but he was on set a lot too when he was when they were making it. He's got the two ties there, Eric.
Big fan of that. Don't know why that didn't last as a fashion statement, but it's interesting because when that scene happened, I noticed the guy was clearly in some sort of makeup, but I was trying to work out what character he had been in a previous movie. So you just explained he wasn't. Yeah.
And he's also in another scene later on, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Hello, everyone. I just said that I would let you know the other character that Charles Fleischer plays in Back to the Future 2, and then I completely forgot about it. So I'm just popping in to let you know that the other character he plays is the mechanic that fixes Biff's car after the manure accident.
His interaction with Marty in this is the start of something that happens a lot. So this guy gives Marty the idea to buy the almanac. So he goes, because a big screen comes up about what happened in this World Series or whatever, and the guy explains, the guy explains about, the whatever it was, the Cubs came up to beat the Raiders, something like that. I can't remember.
If only I could go back to the beginning of the season and bet on the Cubs.
And so Marty goes to, what did you just say? And he literally repeats it just in case we were dumb enough not to get it. He's like, I said, if I could just wink at camera, if only I could go back. If only I had some sort of means like a time machine. I wish he'd just like thrown that one in there. It was just, wow.
Apparently, the Cubs did get pretty close, I think, to winning in 2015. So that was a nice little thing. Oh, it would have been a nice... They didn't, but it would have been nice if they did. So, yes, Marty goes and buys the almanac. And have we missed the part where Biff is noticing some familiar things happening? I think he looked at the courtyard chase with the hoverboards and thought, this looks familiar.
Yeah.
So Marty...
I think that was a very... And again, this happens later on in the movie, but his car being damaged was a very, very significant part of his life. Pivotal moment. But then, so they're saying now he's going, I don't remember the day that my car ran into a manure truck. Oh, hang on, something seems really familiar now.
He's very old now.
No.
Rick, maybe he's got some memory issues.
Sorry, not buying it.
And he's getting triggered by all these events happening. So Marty and Doc, they think mission's accomplished, so they're ready to go back, and Marty drops the bag with the almanac in. Doc catches it, admonishes him, says you're not supposed to mess around with the future or the past, and he's forgetting the fact that he's just brought Marty back from 1985 to change the future of his family.
Yeah. How dare you do that? I've just brought you here to do the same thing. Anyway, Jennifer's been
Didn't
found.
invent a time machine to win at gambling. I invented a time machine to travel through time.
To study humanity, and what an idiot, because ching ching, there's a lot of money to be made.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? If you had a time machine, you'd be investing in Apple and Microsoft and
absolutely,
and getting some Bitcoin.
Yeah, and so you could do the whole time machine market.
So while this is happening, they look in the alley, and Jennifer's being picked up by the cops. They've identified her from fingerprints, which suggests a bit of a sinister future where everybody has their prints on file somewhere, and they take him back to Marty's future home. So
it's spoken about at the start, like when they know they're going into the future. Marty and Jennifer are talking about, ooh, we're going to see our future. How good are we? How rich am I?
Until the electronic roofie.
Yeah, and then obviously then we've got this whole scene where Marty's pretty much in the same estate that he grew up in, Lyons Estate, and it's it's a hellhole. It's horrible.
It's a hell, and the police are really kind to tell us that it's a really bad area as they drop off Jennifer, as you would do. Oh, this place is a dump.
Again, more.
Be careful.
Pretty much how this movie runs on exposition. It's just like, every person has let's just make sure everyone knows exactly what's happening in this scene.
So Jennifer goes back into her house. She's very confused. She says something about the lights. The lights go on, so there's voice recognition functions in the house.
Yep.
She sees her future son come in, and he puts lots of different channels on his TV. It's like a big screen. We have big screen TVs. I'm pretty close there. And we also have Michael J. Fox dressed up as his daughter coming down the stairs. And I just remember even from the trailer, Mum, is that you?
So this whole scene to me just seemed about exposition, about how Marty had screwed up his life. Like, was everyone talking about...
Yeah, so Mum and who's Lorraine and George come in and...
Upside down, George, so you can't tell it's not the original actor.
Oh, that's very cynical of you. Oh, by the way, the actor who is playing George McFly in these movies is a guy named Jeffrey Wiseman, and he's very active on social media and things, and he loves being part of the Back to the Future movies as well.
Wow, for his
I think
he less than 1 minute of screen time?
I don't know. Yeah,
did he get?
But he's very proud. He looks. He actually looks a bit, or looked a bit like the man that played the son, Marty's big brother. So that's just by and by. So yeah, we've got the exposition of Nana coming in and saying all about
how Marty screwed up his life. Yeah. It was, and it was also seemed like this is about the directors going, we've got new technology here. We can have Michael J. Fox interacting with himself in 3 different roles. So I don't know. It was a scene that, to me, again, watching the movie was lifeless. Technically, yeah, well done, you did it. But it kind of meant nothing except we got lots of exposition.
And so actors playing in scenes against each other have been done since the beginning of film. They used to cut the negatives and things. But I think the difference with this movie is that they invented some tracking technology that made it a lot more interactive. So you've got characters passing things to themselves. These days it's a lot easier. All you need is a green screen and a camera or your phone. And I'll show you how easy it is, because yesterday I had a bit of spare time on my hands, so I made a little video. So
Why, Peter? Well, Peter, I did not know you had a twin brother.
Oh, well, there you go. That was actually me, Rick. I just filmed a long section and cut it and used a editing program, and I did it myself.
Oh, wow.
But, we've got, anyone can do that. That was really easy. It's not the best piece of work ever, but I just wanted to quickly display how easy it is now. But back then,
that was,
it was pretty good. And I think I think it's more that the Flash. I think we've discussed before that it's because we've got this new tool that's losing my track again. This is going to be edited. I think it's like what we've said previously, that they had this new tool and they wanted to show it off, so they did things like get Marty to dress up, or Michael to dress up as his daughter, and things like that.
I feel like that's a lot of the film about. We've moved technologically, and I think other films have done it better. And Terminator 2 is the one I was thinking of. But
well, they had a lot of twins in Terminator 2. They used a lot of actual twins.
Okay, I did not know that, but there you go.
Linda Hamilton has a twin sister.
Bridget?
I don't know. Susie. I think it's Susie.
Can another part of this this whole thing in Marty's old house, where you can see how he screwed up his life, is this Needles character that just is railroaded into the movie as well. Like apparently Needles was the one that made Marty drag, probably by calling him a chicken.
So Flea, that was played by Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
He can't act, and I don't know. I understand that this movie happened 4 years after the original, but and they kind of were thinking about 2 and 3 together, and you've said before that they weren't really thinking about a sequel, but it's like you would think about maybe settings. I don't know. Needles should have been mentioned at least as something in the first movie, like. Marty was in high school.
It's shoehorned in. They've just shoved it in like the chicken thing, and
and I hate it. I really don't like it.
I mean, they can do it in this one because they know that they've got another one coming, but they can't go back and change it.
Yeah, it's like midi-chlorians.
Don't mention it. Don't mention the M word.
Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the force around you.
And of course, communication hasn't changed much because we've got faxes in every room.
Yes,
anytime something urgent that we need, out spurts the paper.
You're fired.
So then we get Doc banging on the window and alerting Jennifer to come out to the front door, and she gets to the front door just as her future self is entering.
So this was set up earlier in the film, as Doc said. This could cause the end of creation as we know it, or she might just get passed out. Like, it seems to me, I don't know. I guess it was a throwaway line in the comedy thing, but it just, they both looked at each other, did the same moves. Oh, it's me. Oh,
but I actually liked the choreography of that, and I liked the. I thought it was a good little stunt by Elizabeth Shue. If it was Elizabeth Shue falling backwards like that.
Yeah, no, that was
I'm
fine.
old,
But it was
I'm
just the
young.
way it was.
It was
But
timed.
it was just the way it was set up. Yeah.
It was technically good.
But there was no.
But it was set up. Yeah, like it could be the end of the world of life as we know it, or they could faint.
And we knew it was going to be the
I mean,
latter.
they can't end. Well, they can't end in the world,
Yeah.
can they? All right, so they get Jennifer back, but while all this has been going on, and Marty was off looking at a dog being walked or whatever he was doing, while Biff was stealing the DeLorean.
Yeah, old Biff comes in,
Biff
manages
with his,
to.
science background and engineering degree, knows how to work.
He did have a car detailing business, yeah.
He did. So that's he's probably covered time traveling cars in that.
Yeah, so he knows how to set a flux capacitor or whatever it is to. Oh, I need to go to this point in time.
Put
this
the
is
time,
an interesting
set
thing.
the time circuits.
Stupid Biff knows how to do a time machine, goes back, changes the past, basically.
Yeah. So Marty and Doc get back into the DeLorean, not knowing that Biff had gone back in time. There was a deleted scene here where Biff gets out the DeLorean and fades away from existence. But they cut that out. They kept his walking stick, door knocker thing. Off. So do you think maybe they thought that would have disappeared from existence too? So maybe that's why they cut that.
Yeah,
down?
I think so. But it just surprises me that Marty could get in and there's this big lump of wood on the floor of where his feet go, and he hasn't gone.
He's pretty short, Michael J. Fox. His feet are probably hanging over the edge of the seat, so maybe he could.
Yeah, possibly.
I don't know. So they go back to 1985, and they drop Jennifer off on the swingy bench on the front porch, as responsible adults would do. And Marty just seems to notice that there's some bars on the window, and they just leave that. It was nighttime. There was more differences. Like it looked pretty grotty. It looked pretty horrible.
Yeah, there was
noticed
graffiti.
The bars.
There was graffiti. There was long grass. It was unkempt, but it was nighttime. It was nighttime, Peter. So it's hard to see.
Okay, so Doc drops Marty off at his house, and Marty notices that the gate's locked. This is obviously unusual. So he gets over, but the window's still open, luckily. I thought it was funny that the gate was locked, but the window was able to be jimmied up so easily. Climbs in, and there's a little girl. Is it a little girl? I think a little girl sleeping in the bed.
Yeah.
And she screams. The dad comes in with a gun and...
Baseball bat.
Baseball bat? Is it a baseball bat?
It's a baseball bat. He swings and knocks it out.
I only watched it yesterday, Rick. You can't expect me to remember these details.
He swings at Marty about 5 times.
He does.
Destroys half of the girls'
kids' room. And so he's chased out. He runs off. He runs to a house. He's thinking, what's going on? This is not 1985.
Can we just go back to, as he runs off, the guy with the baseball bat's going, you can tell that company we're never going to sell. And that doesn't, like it was to happen as a scare tactic to try and make them move out. But one, they're in obviously one of the worst neighbourhoods in the worst ever timeline. But I don't know. None of that makes sense to me.
But is that ever referred to again? Like why?
No, it's not. It seems to be like it would be a setup for something else, but it never comes back.
It's pretty much a throwaway line then.
Yeah.
So Marty then is thinking, "Oh, this is not 1985." He sees a newspaper on the steps of another house, goes over, sees it is 1985, and hears of a shotgun. And who is it, Rick?
It's Mr. Strickland. His teacher from. If we're going to actually put timeline
Principal,
this
isn't
before.
it?
Oh no, he's. It says in a later scene he's discipline.
Oh.
Mr. Strickland is head of discipline, but
okay.
so he comes out. They have this dialogue. Oh, you know me, you know me. The school burned down 6 years ago, but Strickland's got a shotgun, and so he's about to shoot Marty in the nuts, and then a car full of youths. We don't know if they're like just old high school ones that have a grudge against Strickland or not. Shoot up his house like machine guns and just straight. At this point, I'm going, what movie am I watching? This isn't Back to the Future. Like, they've shot up Strickland's house, and then he's gone hid. Marty's like covering, going for cover and just, in terror on the floor. And then Strickland comes out with a shotgun and shoots at the car, calling them slackers. Like, okay, so we've got, it's Mr. Strickland. He's using the word slackers, which he does a lot.
It's his catchphrase.
But it's. I know they're trying to paint this alternate future as a horrible reality, but it just isn't. I don't know. It just doesn't feel part of the Back to the Future universe to me.
You saying that's just reminding me that they toned down the language a bit in this one, and the third one. Like the first one, when you watch it, it's got a little bit of cursing and a little bit of swearing in it, whereas in the next two, I don't think they have that sort of language.
I think they used that sh word quite a bit in this one, but yeah. But it was just, I don't know. It just doesn't work for me at all. I still remember my thoughts, and I remember watching it now earlier today and just going, we're almost halfway through the film now, and there is not one part of me that has just gone, yeah, I'm impressed at some of the technical aspects and some of the in-jokes, I guess, but as a film, as an audience member trying to be relate to a character, I'm just going, how long is this? Come on. How much longer have I got left to go?
So Marty then wanders off to the town square, and he runs into the homeless person, same homeless person from the other movies. His life hasn't improved.
No.
Probably hasn't really changed at all since.
No.
And then he ends up at a big casino called Biff's.
Which is basically built on the place that the town hall was, the clock tower.
Yeah, and I didn't really register that before I watched it yesterday. But I did notice that.
Because that's where you put it.
Yeah, of course you would.
And there's tanks driving through the street. There's bikies like... I don't get what's going on here. Why? Why are there bikies? Why are there tanks?
And we get a bit of exposition on a video outside the casino about how Biff made his fortune.
Yep.
And so Biff getting rich and build a casino has just destroyed the whole town, maybe the whole world. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Who cares?
That would
Who
be
cares at this point? Yeah.
Which guards? I'll try that again. So Marty gets approached by the security at the casino, who happen to be Biff's goons. Billy Zane is one of them, and they knock him out. And
we could do this the hard way or the easy way. Doom. The easy way. It's just ugh.
And so then Marty is knocked out. What does he wake up to, Rick?
He wakes up to the mirroring of the scene where he wakes up in 1955. Right down to the music, the little tinkling of the... You can delete that part out. And he's in the dark.
It'll cover copyright if you're right.
Yeah. He's in the dark. He's like, I've had a horrible dream or something, and whatever. And he can hear his mum's voice. In the first movie, it was his mum's voice, but it was his younger version of mum, which wasn't his mum at the time. This is his mum now. And so basically almost identically doing that. Would be a sweet touch if this movie was better.
And you're not going to mention any changes with Lorraine and alternate 1985?
Yes, right down to the... what was it in the original movie? He goes, You're so when he's like recognises
So
his
young,
mum,
is it?
you're so thin, thin. I think he
Oh,
said.
okay. He's very
And-
superficial.
Yeah, and whereas this one is you're so, and he's staring at his mum's boobs. You're so big. It's just wrong on so many levels.
Not as wholesome as Mum checking out Marty's Calvin Kleins in 1955.
I completely accept that because he was a teenager,
Well, she didn't
same
know,
age as
did
her. Yes, no. He knew that he was her mum. Oh, sorry,
so-
he knew that she was his mum. and he's still like, oh my god,
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
Chesty LaRue. Yep.
Chesty LaRue. And so then we meet Biff, 1985 Biff, Rich Biff, who may or may not be closely resembling Donald Trump at that time. I think there was a bit of commentary. I think that might have been a deliberate commentary about
Really?
Trump
Back
and his
then?
hotel. I think so.
Okay.
He's not the Trump that we know today, the respected president of the United States.
I think we'll leave
He was
political
more the
commentary out of this.
businessman.
Okay. You're fired.
And so we find here